Gotta drink the water away from all my tech. I'm so bad about having uncovered containers in my studio. What's up, everyone? Daniel here with Slow Haste, where we talk about synths, electronic music, and the creative process. I'm here to talk about my potential end game synth setup. This is incredible. I know you've seen me using the Digitone and the Digitakt together, but I got this cool stand that kind of mounts them together with the Arturia Keystep, and I've just been creating some stuff that I've really been enjoying. It honestly kind of feels like the same workflow that I would use in a DAW when I was first learning how to use that, in terms of just how I arrange and sequence stuff together, and the way it all kind of naturally flows. It's really great. The two devices work spectacularly together, and the Keystep is an invaluable addition, especially if you're using the Digitone. It's great to have a little keyboard to be able to play a bit more of a full range than the onboard keyboard has to offer. So I posted a song earlier this week or last week, depending on when I decide to put this video up, but I'm just going to play the two main components of that song so you can hear how they transition. And then I'm just going to explain how I kind of use this setup to arrive on the final composition and explain the breakdown of the parts on both the Digitakt and the Digitone. So without further ado, here is the main build of the beat, and then I'll transition into the bridge. And we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the different parts and instruments as I kind of explore and break down the beat. So here we go. So yeah, those are the two main parts. Again, I will just take you through how I kind of made this beat. And let's start off with the Digitone, because that's where I started when I made this song. Okay, so let's talk about this main pattern. This is a preset synth from the Digitone. It's called Pluck ZB. It's one of the presets that I just kind of modified. I did a lot of messing around with the filter and panning and some of the other amplitude settings to kind of get it to sit in a satisfactory place. And I have the sound on the keyboard right here. It kind of sounds like steel drummy when it's played with the kick and the rest of the beat, which is kind of cool. Wasn't my intention, but I like how it turned out. But yeah, very plucky, something you might be able to kind of program on an analog synth. In addition to that, there are these two kind of ethereal pads going on. One of them is kind of like a harmonium harpsichord, and the other one is a very fluty synth on the left side. The fluty synth on the left is a lot more subtle. Volume-wise, they're matched to be similar, but I think that the harpsichord sound kind of just stands out because of the nature of the really tinny, harsh sound of it. So yeah, the flute's on the left, harpsichord kind of sound is on the right. And again, these are two presets. The flute sound is from the Pad DL, and I have no idea where these names come from. And the harpsichord is Old Tumbino, JA. So yeah, again, with the main synth progression, it kind of just creates this rooted but floaty and ethereal, contemplative little chord progression. And then I'll play the bass synth with the kick drum from the Digitakt. So I have the amplitude volume side chained to the quarter note with a saw wave. Pretty light depth, to be honest. I could have gotten way more extreme with it, but I wanted it to be subtle. So somewhere around -32, I think. And then let's mute that and bring back in the other components of the Digitone. So yeah, to be completely honest, I kind of started this off as trying to make like an ambient piece. I ended up shaping the sound of that main chord progression to be like way more attacky. At first it was kind of floaty and bouncy, but then I was like, wait, this has way too much rhythm to it to kind of be as ambient as I envisioned it being. So I'm just gonna roll with what I have programmed and see where it goes. So yeah, that's what I came up with on the Digitone. So let's move over to the Digitakt now. Let's start off with the drum beat as we always do. I think I actually started with the hi-hat and the snare after I programmed the kick. So this hi-hat sample is from this Baths splice set, and I just have different steps parameter locked. And then I kind of did a cool turnaround at the end of the fourth bar that I'll let you listen to while you watch the waveform. So yeah, sounds pretty much just like a natural hi-hat. And then with the snare drum, which is one of my favorite parts, because the sample is crazy. As you can see, the waveform is wild. It's like a bunch of cool, like clacky rhythms played in a syncopated manner. But I took like that main first snare hit, and I think I pitched it down to give like that snare sound. And then in the stereo field, you have some of the clacks happening on offbeat. Or not the offbeat, but you know, step 13 in each bar, because it's kind of like a halftime feel. And what I did with that da 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 rhythm is I high pass filtered it, threw it on one side, and then did a low pass on the other side, and I kind of like build the intensity of that part in terms of like volume and how much of the sound data you're actually getting until you get that full at the last step 13 of that fourth bar to kind of just like build it naturally. So on top of that, I threw a little hi-hat sample that you can't hear because there's an LFO, but yeah, it's just a hi-hat sample with some delay on it to get it to play as 16th notes, or I guess technically it's 32nd notes, but since this is like a halftime groove, I put it on every step. And I just wanted it to have, you know, twice that speed. So I could have, you know, you can do that with delay. You can do that by doing the retrig. I just like to do it with the delay because I think it's easier. So yeah, that is the essence of the percussion part in the first bar. I also threw in this cool sample from the Baths splice sample set. And it's like this glitchy kind of like distorted violin passage. I think it's like maybe a string instrument, or maybe it's a guitar even, but I chopped it up really finely, and as the beat plays on, I build it. I'm gonna be quiet so you can hear. So yeah, I just played it with the chromatic keyboard at different steps, and it sounds kind of weird by itself, right? But let's play it with everything but the bass synth, so you just have those melodic components. So yeah, it kind of just adds this like weird glitchy element, this kind of like call and response type of thing going on that I thought was really appropriate for the tune. Anyways, so with all of that in mind, let's take a listen to the first pattern in its entirety. So yeah, that's the first pattern. I'm really love how organically the process kind of happened for me. Typically when I start with the Digitakt, I tend to either start with like a rhythm, or I'll start with a specific sample, like a melody that I want to express, and then I'll put a beat underneath it. What I've honestly found is that I really think that it's like more fun to start with a melody and then put a beat underneath it, because in my eyes, drums and percussion kind of provides context for everything else that's going on in a song. So when you start with the drums, you have to make that decision, say like, I want this context to be this type of beat, or like this speed, and then it kind of informs the melody. When you start with a melody, it's a lot more independent, and then you can like create the context behind it, and you can experiment differently and kind of see what suits that melody more. It would be like writing a character and then putting them in an environment rather than starting with an environment and then writing a character to fit that environment. Just kind of a cool creative exercise to think of if you ever find yourself in a rut. Maybe start off writing a different part of a song or a composition that you don't normally start with. All right, so let's go on to pattern 2, which in all honesty is like my favorite part of the whole song. And I'm actually just gonna like play you the build because I got so excited when I kind of came up with this part. I knew that I wanted to peel back the layers and get really sparse before building it back up with like a double time relative to that halftime beat. So yeah, let's jump right in. The first things first is the hi-hat track. Same thing as what's on the first pattern. Really nothing crazy. I kind of created the beat here, knowing that, again, that I wanted to build it up. So I added in this weird snare, rim shot sample. It sounds kind of stupid and goofy by itself. The way that I cranked the reverb and like very obviously adjusted the pitches. But I was kind of inspired by this James Blake song from his album Overgrown called Digital Lion. I think it was a collaboration with Brian Eno actually. And the breakdown is like, it's a super long breakdown. It's like 3 minutes or something. And it has this hi-hat rhythm and this like weird clicky glitch sound that is just drenched in reverb, and it's just really cool sounding and it's unique. And I was like, maybe I could try to implement that kind of a thing here, and it ended up working out really well. So I knew I wanted to keep that harmonium like sound here. I wanted it to be like super tinny, but a little less so than the first pattern because it has some bass note information, right? And I wanted it to be substantial enough to exist on its own within the pattern, starting off with these two other percussive elements before the bass synth comes in. And we'll get to the bass synth. Another one of my favorite like defining characteristics of this part is this sample right here. Again, from the Bath's Splice sample pack, this miraculously just fit the BPM of the song. It's probably like 120 BPM or something, and the song is 60, so it just lined up perfectly when I was going through samples and seeing what else I could add in terms of percussive elements. It's just this like squelchy, creepy, percussive sound set, and I just thought it was super cool. So yeah, all that together is starting to get substantial, but it still sounds like pretty empty, right? Because, you know, there's no like mid to low mid or like bass sounds here. So I knew I wanted to kind of drop the bass and add in this second synth, which we'll talk about. But this bass sound is something that I've been using in a lot of my Digitakt beats for bass synth, and I struggled with that transient because it's in reverse, and I tried messing with the filter envelope, I tried messing with the amplitude envelope, the start time, and I still was getting that pop, but you can't hear it. It doesn't matter in the mix. It's all good. Sometimes it can be really easy to get caught up in those frustrating little things, especially on hardware like this, but just listen to it in your whole mix, and if you can't hear it, then it's fine. Don't worry about it. Anyways, Anyways, this is just a note, a pluck from Platts, the module for mutable instruments that I sampled into here. And I use it a lot as a bass synth if I want a plucky sound, or I'll reverse it if I want like a swelling bass sound, kind of like a side change type of thing when the kick is like that. And then there's this little auxiliary thing that I used as like a pickup for the kick drum. Oh, another cool thing I did with the kick drum is I parameter locked the bit rate on the downbeats on the beat 1 of everything. So this is the normal hit, and then this is the bit reduced hit. So it adds this like kind of like a cool thing when you add all of this other stuff in here. Just like this cool rhythmic variation that I achieved with the bit rate being reduced. And I was just experimenting with the sound and I was like, oh, this adds a cool rhythmic element. Totally unexpected there. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the Digitakt. So let's talk about this other synth sound on the Digitone. This is a preset called Low Fade. I think it's meant to be a bass sample, or a bass synth, sorry. So yeah, again, just showing you some of the filter and synth settings. Got quite a bit of reverb there and a lot of drive. So here it is. It's literally just these 2 notes. And you might be wondering, where is that other chord coming from? Well, we have the synth ratio C, so ratio C, being controlled by the LFO, and that's the depth being controlled. So it's affecting the harmonics, right? So you can't see there, but it's basically the depth is, and it's locked to the trig. So we can get really extreme with it. Sorry if that hurts your ears. And I do this in the performance when these notes are playing. I fiddle with this knob. Really cool effect. And these are the 2 synths together. So yeah, quite clearly, I am super passionate about this piece, and I had like a really, really good time making it. Again, because the way these 2 machines just like sync up so well together. And I didn't really even talk about the Keystep, but I mean, it kind of goes without saying, the Keystep is just a great external keyboard for the Digitone. It's a great form factor. It's small, it's portable. And surprisingly, I actually really liked using it to punch things in chromatically on the Digitakt as well, as opposed to being kind of confined to the octave keyboard that you get. And it is snowing. That sucks. Actually, no, it's kind of cool. I take it back. I used to hate snow. I like it now. Okay, so that's really all for this video. I just wanted to show you an example of how these 2 devices, with the help of the Keystep, have really come together to just like form this trinity of amazingness that I have been getting so much joy out of, and has made it really easy to get these really intricate, complex arrangements with a very familiar and comfortable workflow to me. So if you have one of these 2 devices, I don't know, I can't recommend getting the other one enough. They pair so well together. The workflows are very similar, but the functions of the machines are distinct enough for it to be just more than worth it. Anyways, that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining as always. Again, as always, if you're enjoying this type of content, please consider like the video, subscribing to the channel. It really helps with visibility and it makes me feel good. So thanks. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoy your day. Peace.